guys, today I'm going to be teaching you how to make these marshmallows. Let's go into the materials. Here's all your materials you'll be needing. First off, you need yarn, and this is the brunette blanket yarn, and it's meant for a 10mm hook, I believe, but along with hooks I'm using a 8mm hook to go with this one. And then you don't need a smaller hook, but I just like to use a smaller hook to weave my ends in because I don't want it to create a bigger hole using this hook. And then you need scissors. You also need stitch markers, but if you don't have it, you use a bobby pin or a paper clip, and I just like using a paper clip. And then you're gonna need stuffing. Any stuffing will do. You can use it from a pillow, but I'm using the Polyfill Premium Polyester Fiber Fill for this project. You're also going to need safety eyes. So this can be whatever size you want. I think that I'm using 12mm eyes with the backing. And then you're going to need, if you want blush, you're going to need pink yarn and a threading needle. To start off with our project, we're going to get our yarn, and then we're going to start with a magic circle, and then we're going to increase it as many rounds as you want, depending on how big you want the marshmallow. And then we're going to go one round of single crochets into the back loop only, and then we're going to create the body of the marshmallow by doing repeat rounds, and you can do that as many times as you want to make your marshmallow size. And then here you're going to go into the back loops only at the bottom, and then you're going to do decrease rounds, and then we're going to close it up here, and then we'll add the face as we're going through. So now that you know the process, let's start with a magic circle. To start a magic circle, you're going to place your yarn draped over your 4 fingers, and then you're going to grab your working yarn and then hold this yarn with your 2 bottom fingers, and then with your index and your middle finger, you're going to wrap it around so it should be below your 2 fingers, and then come back up and then make an X at the top of your 2 fingers, and then use your 2 bottom fingers to hold the working yarn again. So you should have an X formation. Get your hook, and then you're going to go underneath the first loop, come up on after that loop, and then you're going to have your crochet hook facing down, and you're going to grab on to that second loop and twist your crochet hook up, so you should have a loop on that hook. And then you're going to do a chain 1. By doing a chain 1, you get your working yarn, and then you're going to pull that through, which might be a little difficult. So once you're done, take your 2 fingers off and then get your working yarn, and then you're going to hold it. And if you guys don't know how to hold it, then I recommend figuring that out, but I just hold it with my pinky and then this finger holding onto the working yarn, and then I'll have this over my index finger, and then I'll hold my project with my thumb and my finger. So you're going to do 6 single crochets into this magic circle. You're going to go into the circle, you're going to grab a loop, pull it through, and then you're going to pull up a loop, and you're going to pull that through, and that is your first stitch. It can be hard to see the yarn on these, but if you just do projects, it'll be easier. So that's my 3rd single crochet, 4th single crochet, 5th single crochet, and 6th single crochet. And you can count that by going back. So this is 1 single crochet. We don't count this loop on the hook. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then you're going to close up your magic circle by pulling it tight, but not too tight because we still need to go back into those stitches. You're going to go into that first loop that we created, not the chain. This is the loop right here. And you're going to do a slip stitch like that, and then you are going to mark that slip stitch with your stitch marker, but I'm using a bobby pin. So that's how you make your magic ring. So now what we're going to do is we're going to create the circumference of your marshmallow, and you're going to do 2 single crochets in each of these 6 times, which means you should end up with 12 stitches. So to do an increase, you're going to put 2 single crochets in this same exact stitch, which creates 2 stitches from that 1 stitch. That's why it's called an increase, because you're making more stitches in your rounds. You're going to insert 1 single crochet in the same stitch. Then you're going to insert another single crochet in that same stitch, creating 2 single crochets from that 1 single crochet. You can do 1 once more, 2 single crochets, go to the next stitch, do another single crochet, and another single crochet. And you're going to repeat doing that until you have reached your bobby pin. Once you reach your bobby pin, that is the last single crochet you would do an increase in to end this round. And that'll be the slip stitch that you created. And so, put your stitch marker back into the last stitch that you created, and then count to make sure you have 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Now going into our third round, you're going to do 1 single crochet in 1 stitch and then an increase in the next. And then you're going to repeat that cycle until you reach the end where your bobby pin is. So we're going to do 1 single crochet in our first stitch, so no increase. And then going into the next stitch, we're going to do 2 single crochets in the same stitch, which is known as an increase. So 1 single crochet and then 2 single crochets in the same stitch. 1 single crochet, 2 single crochets, and then repeat that until you reach the end. When you're ending the round, you should end on an increase, and then you should have 18 stitches in total. This is going to be the top of your marshmallow. You'll notice that it'll start curving upward, and then this is your right side and this is your wrong side, because this is where your tail end is, and you're just going to tighten it as much as you can. This is going to be the inside of your marshmallow. Here, this is how big I want my marshmallow to be, so we're going to start going into the back loops. To go into the back loops of your stitches, you're going to look at your next single crochet that you're going to go into, but you're not going to go under right here. And when you go into that stitch, you'll see that there are 2 loops that your hook is going into, the front loop and the back loop. We're just going to go into one of those loops, which is known as the back loop. So here, this is the closest loop towards me. So the loop behind it would be considered the back loop, and the loop closest to me would be considered the front loop. You're going to go into the back loop, which is the stitch behind my front loop. And you're going to do a single crochet just in that back loop only. You're going to do 1 single crochet into each of the back loop stitches, which will create a total of 18 stitches at the end of your round. So just keep going to 1 loop. If you notice that your hook is under 2 loops, then you are not doing it correctly. Going into the last stitch, you'll notice that your project is going to start to go exactly like upward. So now we're going to start doing repeat rounds, and repeat rounds are where you place 1 single crochet into every single stitch, and with no increases or decreases or going to the back loops. You're just placing one normal single crochet into each of the stitches to create the body of your marshmallow. You're going to do this for as many rounds as you need to create the body, but you're just going to do repeat rounds, and then by the end of the repeat rounds you should have 18 stitches, and you're going to do that for multiple rounds. I'll meet up with you guys after I've created the body. Okay, once you finish doing your repeat rounds, if you don't have 18 stitches, then you need to go back and repeat your rounds to make sure that you have 18 stitches. So now that you created the body, and I believe we're on round 8, we just finished round 8, so we're on round 9. Once you created the body, this is how big you want the marshmallow, you're going to put in your eyes. So right before you were going to go into the back loops, we're going to place our eyes and our blush. Once you have your eyes placed where you want them to be, then I'm just going to find the backing of those safety eyes, and then I'm going to place it as far as I can until you hear the click. I'm going to add in the blush, and I have like pink noses, and I used it as blush on this project because I thought it was cute, but I'm going to add in pink yarn, and I'll show you guys how to do that like I did with this one. When you're adding blush that is pink, or like you can use thicker yarn to do the blush, in fact that's better, but I don't have pink with chunkier yarn, so I'm just going to use the yarn that I have and then put it in multiple times. So find where you want the blush to be, and I want it to be, it can be right under the eyes, it can be off-centered, it can be wherever you want it to be, but I typically like it to be right here. So you're going to get just enough and then put it back, and then see if you like the placement of where the blush is, and then if you do, you can just go ahead and tie a knot just to secure it from falling out, but not too tight. You want to make sure that you can still see it. You're going to go back through those stitches multiple times until you're at like it's as thick as you want it. Once you're happy with your blush, you want to tie it once more, and you can double knot it too with your yarn. Repeat the same steps for the other side, and then you can just cut it short if your ends are a little more. Okay, now that you're done adding the face and the eyes, make sure you're content with that, and now you're going to go into the back loops of this project. You're going to do one round of single crochets only in the back loops, and you should end up with 18 stitches because we're not increasing or decreasing. And then after this, we're going to start decreasing, and I'll introduce to you guys a stitch called the invisible decrease. We're not going into both of the stitches, just going to the back loop, which is behind our front loop, which is closest to us. Okay, now that you've completed your entire round of going into the back loops only, you're going to start doing your decrease rounds. To do this decrease round, you're going to do one single crochet and then one invisible decrease. I'll show you how to do an invisible decrease. So do a normal single crochet in the first stitch, and then in the next 2 stitches, you're going to combine the 2 stitches to create one stitch by using a method called invisible decrease. To do an invisible decrease, you're going to look at the next stitch you're going to go into, and you're going to go into the front loop only. So you're not going in both of the loops, and you're not going into the back loop. This is the back loop, and this is your front loop. You're going to go into the front loop of your next 2 stitches. So front loop of that first stitch, and then front loop of the next stitch that you're going into. You're going to have 3 loops on your hook. you're going to yarn over and pull through 2 of those first 2 loops, and then you're going to yarn over and pull through the last 2 loops on your hook. That is an invisible decrease. So you should have created 1 single crochet and 1 invisible decrease. When you're going to go into the next stitch to create your single crochet, you're not going to go into this loop because you just created your invisible decrease, and it can look like a loop but it is not. So you're going to go into your next stitch and do a single crochet, and then you're going to do an invisible decrease. We're going to the front loop of the next 2 stitches, having 3 loops, yarn over, pull through the 2 loops on your hook. You should have 2 left, and then yarn over, pulling through the last 2 loops on your hook. That's an invisible decrease. Single crochet, invisible decrease, single crochet, invisible decrease, all the way to the end of your round. You should end on an invisible decrease, just like this. And then place your bobby pin in the stitch you just created. You'll notice that the hole is getting smaller, and actually this is where I want to add this stuffing. So you're just going to grab bits of stuffing, and then you're going to stuff up your marshmallow. And to create a flat top, you're going to add less stuffing at the top, making sure that it's flat while you're placing in your stuffing in small chunks. And then you're going to feel around areas that you can add more stuffing, and then keep on adding it until you reach the top, leaving less stuffing on the top because we want this to be a flat bottom. Now that you've added your stuffing, we're going to do 1 round of entirely invisible decreases, and that will bring our stitches down to 6. So you should have 12 right now, and then you're going to do 1 invisible decrease in each 2 stitches. So we're going to do all invisible decreases, and this may be a little difficult because you have a less space. Just keep on doing invisible decreases in each of the stitches. Once you've done your last invisible decrease, you're going to notice that the hole is very tiny now. We're going to get rid of our bobby pin, we don't need it anymore, and you're going to get a large tail end, which is about like a foot long. And then you're going to pull that yarn end, tail end. So you're going to use this tail end, and you're going to go through these stitches, which is where our smaller hook will come in handy. And then we're going to put it into the stitches to close up the hole. So to do this, you're going to look at the next stitch that you are going to go into that stitch with your smaller hook. You're going to grab the tail end and pull it through. You're going to go into the next stitch, grab your tail end and pull it through. Next stitch, grab the tail end, pull it through. And you'll notice that it's slowly closing the hole. And just go into a couple of stitches. I like to go through at least 6 stitches before I close it up. And then I just like to go through that last hole, which will create the bottom. And then with this tail end, you're just gonna go through any stitches through the body to hide the tail. And then once you've gone through it enough, you can cut that tail end. And you just created your marshmallow. Congratulations!